Good morning, everyone. I hope we are doing well this morning. My name's Nalukwili Binga. I'll be your co-host, your co-host coordinator for this event today, alongside Maniko Mara. Yeah. So I'll just quickly run you through this program for today. So we're going to have welcoming remarks from Holland Greentech by Patricia, who is our country manager. Thereafter, the host will be able to also come through and welcome us to his beautiful farm. And then we are going to have Johan, who is going to just run us through the overview of the hydroponics, why hydroponics. Thereafter, we're going to have Alan, who will just also take through what he's been doing together with Johan. And then from there, we are going to go to the greenhouses where we have the hydroponics, and we'll have the person who is the manager for the farm, Nicholas, who is just going to welcome us as a farm manager. We're going to have our suppliers just talking to us. We have people from Rigs One. These are the people that supply us with the seed. And so they will just take us through and also answer to some of the questions that you have pertaining to your journey with farming so far.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to see you all here. For those of you that don't already know me, my name is Patricia Mwansa. I've been solving problems for Holland Greentech for 9 years now. When we started in 2018, one of the first people to come to our office, Mr. Skazwe, I've known Mr. Skazwe for 9 years, yeah? We are clocking 9 years now. So you see that as Holland Greentech, we are not just here to provide inputs and compete for profits. We are really concerned that we are adding positively to the growing of the agricultural sector. So building relationships, making positive contributions to the sector for us is very important, which is why we are here today. We'll talk about the hydroponic system today. I'm sure most of you have an idea, but it's still maybe not yet clear what we are really talking about. So we'll be able to explore an overview first of all, and then we'll go into the greenhouses to just see what everything is about. So the structure is from, the package is from the greenhouse itself, to the irrigation system, to the crops, to the fertilization, to the workers, and the kind of support that you would expect to get from us as you start to adopt the system. So please feel free, interact, and ask as many questions as you can. We have a group where we are extending the interactions, so please feel free. There were a few guidelines that were shared for following the demonstration, so please read through. But before we start going into the greenhouses, someone will also share, and please let's make sure that we respect the regulations and that we respect the space of the host farmer. I'll welcome Mr. Sinkamba to just welcome everyone to his farm.
Good morning, fellow farmers. I think my load today is simple. I'm not here to give speeches and the like, but so simply welcome you all to this small setup we have. I think you do remember very well. I expected Patricia to have mentioned this when she was doing her intro. We were here before. I think a number of your colleagues sitting here could attest to that. We were here some years back when they came to launch the first greenhouse, which we started doing with them. Then from that time, we have had good collaboration with them in terms of sharing ideas and the technology. Now, the journey to do with the hydroponics thing is a result of what had happened during our tour of duty. I think we would attest to that effect in the sense that you say we had a number of trips, I would say, out of the country. We visited Tanzania, we visited Netherlands, South Africa, yeah. So out of those visits, we picked up some few lessons from there. where we could see how our friends out there were doing farming. And then they took farming as a business. So then we said, for us to take it to that level as well, it's better we put an extra effort into that space so that we also take farming as a business. So the motivation behind that is the fact that, you see, whatever we saw out there, although we know technology sometimes are regional specific, but then we said we can bring it home to a certain level and then start seeing things differently. Because you see, no idea, should I say, no business idea comes fully formed. You know, with time, you keep on developing on that aspect. So, like myself and my family, we strongly believe in food as a business. I'm sure you all agree with me that you see all living things, particularly the human beings, in whatever status you are, whether you are sick, at the point of dying, you're a mad person, normal person, whatever, you all want to eat. So when you look at it, you find that, you see, there is a huge business out there, you know, with food. So now we start now trying to particularize what sort of business am I going to involve myself in? What is at my disposal in terms of the customer base, and who am I going to supply the food to? So from that, you start segmenting and then trying to concentrate on what type of crops you should grow and who are you going to supply. And then when you start looking at those minute details to do with the marketing and the like, then you start refining the way you do your farming. You know, you want to do the farming in a particular way because you have a niche client out there, you know, where you want to supply. You're not going to do it as ordinary farm for the sake of just farming, because you're going to work on the numbers. So that's how come now you can see that when you look at this place, we started growing first maybe in the open space, then we came to the tunnels, then we came to another version of the greenhouse, then now we're sitting on the hydroponics. So it's been a journey where we're trying to fine tune and see where do we really sit and maximize on the business, as it were. So like I did mention, mine is not to say much, but to simply welcome you all so that we see what has been put forward, and then you look at the gains and then also critique, because without your input, we'll not do better, we'll not get better, but we'll also value your input where you see, oh, you could have done this. This is more the reason that we're sitting here to welcome everyone and then see how much we can facilitate.
Thomas is saying it's not paradise. I'm telling you now. We were fighting, we will debate, we will hating each other, but we get it right. Is it perfect? That's debatable. I don't think so. I thought it was perfect, and then Alan came in here and then he said it's not perfect. So, and it's not about Alan, I'm just saying this, we try to be perfect as possible. We're making mistakes? Yes, for sure. But there's and we talk about it on the breakfast table this morning. There was a couple of indicators to make this successful. It's not a one-man show. It's not me. It's not Mr. Thomas. It's not Holland Greentech. It's a team. Teamwork, let the dream work. That's the fact. So everyone in this whole project was part of the success of this. But there is a couple of things that you have to consider. And one is that you can't have a project if you don't have a jockey. So make sure you have a jockey. Mr. Thomas had a jockey here who can running. And then with the support of Holland Greentech, we can make a success what we're standing on. So that is quickly and short why we decided and why I'm standing currently here, and it is really an honor for me to standing here to helping Mr. Thomas in his journey where he wanted to end up in 10 years time. And that is what we wanted to show you guys. There is something in this whole operation. We have all the data, we collecting all the data, I can telling you exactly how much water we needed. That is how far we're going. To make sure what is the income and what are we spending to coming to that. Okay, that is from my side.
Morning everyone. Alan, and from South Africa. We've got a fertilizer company in South Africa. So first of all, when we start in hydroponics or even in soil, we have to have a water analysis of the water that you're using, and if it's in the soil, we have to have a soil analysis of the soil that you're going to be planting in. So everyone always asks, well, why do we need that analysis? That analysis is the starting point of your nutrient program. It determines what the pH is in your starting point and whether we need to bring the pH down or whether we need to raise the pH. There are quite a lot of elements in borehole water that you can utilize, but quite often in the borehole water they're in a format that the plant doesn't take them up. So it will be in a bicarbonate format or a carbonate format that the plant doesn't have access to. And we then make changes to the water by adding certain acids in order to dissolve the bicarbonates, and then you make the bicarbonate available, whether it's calcium or magnesium. We look what phosphates are in the water. Normally there's very little potassium in water, but calcium and magnesium is the most important starting point. From that, we then build each element up to the level for each specific crop. A cucumber crop will have a completely different feeding program to a tomato and different to a pepper. Again, tomatoes and peppers are quite close to each other, but there's small variances that you play around with in the growing cycle. So from our starting point, here it's a little bit difficult because we've got to identify what you've got access to, and if you know you've got access to all those things, that's how we build the fertilizer program. And we will start, as I say, there are 12 elements that we work with, 6 macronutrients, about 6 micronutrients that we work with in a basic program. Once we've added all those nutrients to the level that the crop requires it, we will then tell you what the EC must be of the water. Now the EC is just a measurement of the concentration of nutrients in there. That's all the EC does. So when the concentration of nutrients is right, then you know, if you're, let's say for instance, I've worked out that for your cucumber program, you need an EC of 2. If you've mixed all the fertilizers and you measure and it doesn't come to an EC of 2, then somewhere along the line they've made a mistake in the mixing of the fertilizer. That's how you double check yourself all the time. The same with pH. Once you've mixed the fertilizer into your tank, and I've told you to put a certain amount of acid in, if you test the pH, if it's not close to what we've specified, you know that the food that you're going to give your plant is out of balance. So the balance we're trying to achieve is each crop has a demand for nitrogen, for phosphate, for potassium, calcium, magnesium, and that demand is not just what the crop needs, but you've got to go and compare with what your water is added in. Are your elements in the right ratio to one another? And these elements quite often conflict with each other in the nutrient solution. So if, for instance, potassium and magnesium, if the potassium and magnesium ratio is not right, they compete against each other to get into the root, and if there's a little bit too much potassium, it will start pushing the magnesium and it won't take enough magnesium in. And then you start getting certain symptoms which will indicate magnesium deficiencies. It doesn't mean that the program hasn't got enough magnesium in. The magnesium is there. But because there's a little bit too much potassium, it starts favoring potassium and it leaves the magnesium behind, and then you start getting deficiencies. The same with climatic conditions. Now that we're in winter, we change the nutrient program quite a bit in winter months, and in winter, a crop, when the roots start getting cold, when the soil temperatures, or in hydroponics, when your root zones temperatures start dropping, because they'll go from summer, they'll go from 25 degrees Celsius, in winter they can go as low as 15 degrees Celsius. When the plant senses that change in temperature in the root zone, again, it struggles to take up certain elements. Magnesium, phosphate and calcium are always struggle to take up. So then we got to start considering, well, if the plant's struggling to take it up, how else can we take it up? And that's when we start talking to the farmer about foliar sprays, and you do foliar sprays in specific times. Our approach is always, you need to feed the plant through the root. That must be 95% of its nutrients must come through the root. But the last little 5% you can give to the plant as a foliar spray in conditions that are not suitable to that crop. A cucumber crop is a relatively tropical, subtropical type of crop. So when you're farming it in areas where winters are cooler, winters are very dry, the cucumber is not used to that environment, and it doesn't take up nutrients like it's supposed to take up, and that's where you feed it with a foliar spray, where you just top up the nutrients a little bit to try and aid the plant to get the nutrient in. Afford to miss out on one day. You pretty much have to go, you've got to go all the time. You've got to be on the farm, you've got to make sure, because if you skip something today in hydroponics, you will see the problem tomorrow. It will show you immediately that they've made a mistake the day before. And a lot of that comes to the type of training that ourselves and Holland Greentech give people. Is you go to the farm manager and you give him tools as to how to look at the plant and how do you manage your plant. If the plant is doing something, he needs to identify it and he needs to say, okay, I can see what's happening. Let's make a change in the pump house. Let's make a change in the greenhouse or something like that. So farming today is absolutely a science, and it has to be measured every single day. You have to have data, because once you've collected good data and enough data, you can make a good decision. And without the data, you're going to make the wrong decision.
You can ask questions, people are free here, and know that you can actually also have a system like that, and that's the reason why you're here.
So in the first greenhouse, we're going to have greenhouse versus tunnel discussions that will be run by Maniko here. In the second greenhouse, we're going to have irrigation and drainage system that will be handled by Danny. And in the third greenhouse, we're going to have fertigation that will be handled by Johan and Alan. And in the fourth greenhouse, we're going to have crop management that will be handled by Patricia and Temwani.
This is the system which we are using. It's a simple system which is being used to distribute the fertilizers in these tunnels, in the greenhouses. So when we come here, this is the computer which we use to insert the land times and the start times. It just receives the command which we give it regarding what we want, like or the time which we want us for it to irrigate. Okay, so here the valves are the pumps which are used like for each house. Then this is the many pressure pump which we have like to help us in terms of normal distribution of fertilizers, so that because it reaches the greenhouses well. So here is the filter which we use to catch the unwanted particles not to go through the greenhouses. And these are the main tanks which we use currently when we want to make the fertilizers. We put the solution in these tanks. So these tanks they are being operated manually. As you can see, there are valves here. So for example, if I mix that tank, I need to open the valves. For example, currently I'm using that tank which is there at the far end. So as you can see, the valves are open. So if I want to use the second tank, I need to close this valve. Then I open these. Okay. When I come in the morning, the first thing which I usually do here is to make sure that the filter is clean. I need to open the filter and clean it. Not only this filter, but even the filter which is in the pump. I need to make sure that it is clean as well, so that I shouldn't have the problem of pressure in the greenhouses. Unless there is any question, please.
Very proud of him. And we're talking about the jockey. He's the jockey. We need a jockey. Yeah. And well done, Nicholas. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just to coming back to what we try to do here. For us, is it very important that you have to understand ECPH. And there's a lot of fancy systems that you can buy that can monitor this on itself, and you're getting a message on your phone and it was telling you, all right, your pH and your EC is now this, going to your greenhouses. There's so many systems.
Thanks very much. I hope there is a short background of this system that Nicholas, Johan and the Holland Greentech team have been operating is sufficient. Now we can go in the greenhouse.
Before we go in, when we open the door, there are clocks inside. So the culture is, you cannot open the second door minus closing the first door. So when you open the first door, you go in, then you close, then you wash your hands, you put on the clocks, then you go in.
So this is where now I'm going to highlight the difference between a tunnel and a greenhouse. So the difference really is in the features. So then as we go and people are free to ask me any questions, then we will pick it up from there. So what I just want to say is the features that are distinct, what makes a greenhouse and what makes a tunnel. So if you look at the main feature here, if you look up here, there's a vent. So deliberately the way the 504 greenhouse, the Quinta 14. So 14 comes from the 14 width, and then the length is 36. So 36 by 14 makes 504 square meters. So now the way this greenhouse is made is in that it appreciates the science of convection current. So what's happening is warm air is rising. We all know warm air is lighter than cold air. So warm air is rising and leaving through that vent, while the cold air is coming in through the net that you see on the side. So the cold air is pushing in, pushing the warm air out. So there's that continuous movement of the convection current, hence maintaining the temperature that is suitable for the plant growth. By the way, and if you look at it, it's got bolt and nut. So you can actually unscrew this whole structure and put it in another place. There's no any welding done, there's no any permanent attachments. So you can just unscrew it and then put it in another place. That's also the beauty about the Quinta 14 greenhouse.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, once more. So my name is Danny Skazinga, and at Holland Greentech, I'm a project officer as well as a technical advisor. So here I'm going to talk about the irrigation system setup and also the drainage system. So to this system, as we talked about earlier, so it's important that we do things the right way, because everything here has to do with precision. So whatever you are doing has to complement with what the system outside is meant to achieve. So the irrigation equipment, we have what we call the button drippers. So what we have here, this is a button dripper. So this button dripper can do 8 liters per hour. So then we also have the pegs. So each peg, from the 4, we have 4 branches from the peg. So it means each peg here is getting how many? 2 liters. So it's 8 divided by 4. We have 4 buttons. So it means in each bag we have about 4 liters going to one plant. So remember, we are not irrigating this at a go like 1 hour. Each run is not like 1 hour. So we have runs for, depending on water requirement and how the crop is responding to what we are doing. So we change the run times. But most of the run times that we do here are like 5 minutes. We have like 3 minutes, depending also on the age of the, how old the crop is. So when we are starting, it's usually like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Then we, also the weather contributes. We know very well that when irrigation is affected by a number of factors, which is temperature, also the environmental conditions around the greenhouse. So we use these button drippers in here, because what we want is also to have the water go direct to the roots. Okay, so then from there, of course, the other thing we talked about is precision. So we don't want to guess like how much water are we applying. For example, we can easily get water direct from the tank, use a bucket and pour in here. But then we'll miss the point. What's the point? We want to be as precise as possible. So as you go on, we'll look at the numbers also of how much fertilizer is being used here compared to the outdoor production. So you find that with this system, with this system, you are able to save a lot of fertilizer, because you know how much water you are applying. Every minute you run the system for 3 minutes, you know, like, okay, I've put so much fertilizer per bag, I've done this, I've applied so much fertilizer in that time period. So then from there, I think this system is very self-explanatory. I think the technical part of it is just around the pegs there and the button dripper there. So the other thing that you want to do when you're setting up your hydroponic system is to have a drainage system, because there is a lot of water that comes out of this system. So you want a proper drainage system so that you don't have water accumulating in the house, because we know that when we have a lot of water, one, this place is a bit hotter than the outside. So that will promote a lot of fungal diseases inside the greenhouse. So what you want to do is make sure you have a proper drainage system, and that is why we have these trenches here. So these trenches also, they are sloped a bit. So if you look at the far end, as you are going this side, it slopes. So it's lower as you go this side. So this is by design so that the water can flow from the far end into the drainage system, the main drainage system that carries the water out into the septic tank. We talked about precision. This place also should be very clean so that you don't promote diseases inside the greenhouse. You also need collection point for the water that is draining out of this place. So for this place, we have that septic tank there that is collecting that water, and then since that water has nutrients and all that stuff, if you're doing some outside gardening and open field, you can find a way of just making use of that filtrate or the water that is coming out of the greenhouse. If you look at this, it's really designed, but we also work with clients to make sure that what you are getting also meets what you want to see on the ground. So also on the design of that drainage system, of course, we had to engage the client also, like, okay, how do you want this to be? We would have done our own way, but through client engagement, we come up with a system that suits client specifications, and then we developed something like that. So when it comes to working together, this is where Holland Greentech really shines, because we work with you so that we can meet what you want as a client. And also, when you come into the greenhouse, you should be happy that, oh, I contributed and this is what I really wanted as a client. So with irrigation, if there are no questions, I think for me, that is it, unless there are questions.
And the more education we can give them in how to manage and how to read and what tools they can use. Like I say, fertilizer is a tool. More fertilizer does this, less fertilizer does that. More water, less water. All those things have a factor in how you manage this plant. The same with pruning or cutting fruit out. If you cut a fruit out, it's going to have more energy to put another fruit up here. So that balance in the plant has to remain all the time. Yuan said earlier, this whole thing is a factory. And this factory is putting out cucumbers at a rate on that side. You've got to make sure you can sell so many cucumbers at that rate, because you can't leave them on here. If you leave cucumbers on here, if there are 4 or 5 big cucumbers, it's going to abort these cucumbers. And you don't want, because then you get your plant into a tendency where it produces and then it stops, and it produces and it stops. The whole idea of putting a greenhouse up is to get consistency.
There's funny things happening out there. I can be very honest with you. I mean, I'm in Kenya, they're saying, okay, I wanted to have the maximum from there to there, the maximum out. And they destroy the plants. And I literally leave everything, getting the yield off, but they're not getting the real yield. They're just saying, okay, I can getting 10 kilos per square meter, and that's what I want. So this depends on what you want. So for if you wanted to be, remember, a lot of guys in South Africa working between 16 and 20 weeks to getting the consistency flowing. So if you wanted to go to the 16 and 20 weeks production, then you have to playing around. What worked for you better? Is it 2, 1 out, 2, 1 out, or is it 1, 1 out, 1 leaf, 1 out, 1? It is what works for you. But you have to balance your plants.
You are using the same program in terms of the fertilizer program on the English and the Midas. I mean, having now come on the ground, do you think that it's working out? Is it okay, or is there?
It's not the best thing. So in South Africa, they do a snack cucumber, a mini cucumber, and a lot of the farmers are running it on the same program. And with the mini cucumber, you can see it doesn't like the same program as the English cucumber. I think, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think this cucumber when you go next door, notice, look how thin these are and look how thick those are.
Yeah.
So I feel we can get these a lot thicker, but we've got to have a specific program for this. And I think this program will be a higher nitrogen level and a slightly lower potassium level. That's my feeling. I think this needs a bit more of a vegetative program. So over there, the ratio between nitrogen and potassium is 1 nitrogen for every, at the moment in a winter program, for every about 1.5 potassiums. This, I think, needs a program closer to 1 nitrogen to 1.2 potassiums, maybe 1.1 potassiums. But if you're capable of running 2 systems on a separate program, we can try and implement that. But it's a whole new learning curve because it doesn't get sick. If you, like I say, there you got Pythium, you got Fusarium, here you don't see it. So this is a much hardier plant. I think it will be more resistant to powdery mildew, probably more resistant to downy mildew. So it is a hardier plant, but I don't think it will give you the production that will give you.
That's what it is, a trial of it. So we wanted to see what is it happening on the sales side, and then see, because there was not a discussion before we putting this in, because we didn't want to do it, but Mr. Thomas wanted to. So let's see what is the production coming out here, and then we can starting to play and saying, but let's go into a vegetative type of program.
Your grower. Your grower determines what happens here. And if he's good and he brings to your attention when he's seeing problems and there's a solution for it, you'll be successful. But he has to walk through this greenhouse every single day. Every day. Like I was telling the previous group, I've got 1 or 2 cucumber farmers that the farmer himself says that every day he has to harvest 1 or 2 lines in about 5 or 6 greenhouses. So he will take 1 line and he'll harvest, and that forces him to look at every single plant while he's harvesting. And then he'll go to another greenhouse and he'll harvest 1 line, just so that he gets the opportunity to actually thoroughly go through the greenhouse from beginning to the end and look at everything.
Okay, maybe say a bit about the pH. I think I've been seeing the pH sometimes being
above 7.
Reduced. No. I mean, as it's coming in, maybe you go 5.8. Yeah.
So we set the pH. It's straightforward chemistry why we put the pH there, because most of these elements, not even taking into consideration plants, when elements get above a certain pH or below a certain pH, they start reacting. Calcium, magnesium, calcium above a pH of 6.3 will start naturally going back to a bicarbonate. It takes CO2 from the air and it goes above a pH of 6.3, it goes back to calcium bicarbonate, and it's not available to the plant when it's in calcium bicarbonate. And the higher you go above 6.3, the faster that reaction happens. So first of all, from a chemistry perspective, that's why pH matters, because these things react at different pHs. When you look at the plant, 2.4, you're going out with an EC of 2 or 2.4. So there's a lot of fertilizer in that water. And most of the time it's in a relatively good balance.
But the pH is probably about 7, isn't it? As it's coming out.
Yeah, it depends, because you must remember pH is temperature related. So most probably the pH in that tank will be different than it was lying here.
But yes,
So
you definitely use it in an open land system where you're planting in the soil. You can. And then you've just got to monitor your soil analysis to make sure that you're not over applying fertilizers, because most farmers that we have in South Africa over apply fertilizers. Phosphates normally, very seldom potassium, because potassium is expensive, so they don't over apply potassium.
I thought phosphates are the most expensive.
It is expensive, but phosphates don't leach. So you can't leach your phosphates out, but people keep putting, and they just put a little bit too much, and then the phosphates in the soil gets too high.
So welcome to the crop management greenhouse. So here we're going to talk about how we've been managing the crop. So what management practices we've been using, as well as the crop protection protocol that we've been following. So here we've been mainly using biological products, so natural products for both insect control and fungal disease control. So you see that the plants here look like they are happy, right? So the first thing, if you want to know what's happening in your greenhouse, I always say, when you walk in, how do you feel? Are you comfortable? Are you too hot? Are you too cold? How you feel is most likely how the plant is also feeling. So when you walk into your greenhouse at a particular time, the temperature is telling you something about how the crop feels. And also it's important to know that each time you're spraying a chemical on the plant, it's not comfortable. So a chemical, a concentration of salt on the leaves adds to the discomfort of the plant, which reduces the yield of the plant consequently. So it's very important that you understand what threats of diseases or pests are likely to be subjected to the crop and what you can do. So in all of the 7 weeks here, we've not had a disease on the plant. And that is because when we just started, our focus was on first developing the roots of the plant. So if you check, most of the roots are actually protruding from the bud. So how we achieve this, when you just start, when you transplant, it's important that you first ignore the leaves for even a week. You're just focusing on the roots. So we have about 6 run times, 6 feeding times, and each of them is like 3 minutes. So most farms, especially those managing in soil, you want to irrigate in advance for the whole day. So you would irrigate 1 hour or 2 hours more. Or sometimes maybe because you have so many plots, you don't have the luxury of doing like a 3 minutes. But the consequence is that you have very shallow roots. And those shallow roots will impact on the longevity of the plant. So instead of maybe having it for 12 weeks, you only have it for 10 weeks or 8 weeks because the roots are very shallow. So when this starts producing and it has cucumbers, it won't be stable because the roots are shallow. So it's very important that you plan your irrigation time in a way that you are applying less water but frequently. So here the program is after every 2 hours.
So you're saying every 2 hours, 3 minutes of watering. And then how many sessions do you have?
About 6.
About 6, so in the space of 12 hours. Okay.
And then we also know what diseases would come, right? It's typically downy mildew, it's powdery mildew, angular leaf spot. We can already apply what we need to defend. Because the disease is not yet visible, we focus on strengthening the root system. So after drenching a lister, we apply Fortafo. Then at least every week, we also apply a fish emulsion, which has oil and some amino acids just to also help the plant. So you see that because of that, our cost on chemicals is not as high as it would be in a system that is working open field or a system that is not being managed with information.
In this system, you don't also have to worry about nematodes?
No.
Because of the cocoa, so that is treated as well. Yes, and then the other important thing is minimizing physical damage on the plant that come from implementing managing practices late. So I was saying we harvested at 4 weeks. So that means that the trellising, pruning were being done correctly before we anticipated our first harvest. So when you just transplant, at the end of the first week, it's important that you have your twine. Cucumber grows about 3 to 5 centimeters every day. So when you delay to put in your twine, it will grow by 25 centimeters in a week. So that's like 25 centimeters of a branch. So for someone to trellis, it will take more time, and then it's also more vulnerable to breakage and damage. But otherwise, this system is very simple. The initial investment cost may sound high, but it all lies in the business case that you're looking at. What market are you supplying? Because these also taste very different, because we are not adding chemicals. The fertilizer is as we apply each day, and it reflects in the quality of the fruit. If you taste some, you'll see the taste is very different. So what market are you supplying? What prices are you getting them at? And what is the quality of your management on the farm? If you can balance those things, this system is very simple to manage.
So what I like to share or to discuss with you is I think that the power that we have, like, it starts with the growers that are here together, and like there can be a lot of knowledge sharing, in this case facilitated by Patricia and the team, but also you will be able to find yourself. I think that's very important. But what I like to share also, what's perhaps not visible for you every day, is that behind Patricia there's a whole team. Like the companies that are supporting Patricia, it's not only Holland Greentech and the holding, but like there was just Andrew here and Esther from Rijkswaan. Rijkswaan, they have a cooperation with Holland Greentech now, I think, for 10 years. And sometimes it feels like we are just colleagues. Like we work like it's almost one company. The same is for irrigation. Like Esther mentioned that irrigation is important, but the director of Rivulus Africa, Mohammed, I started working in Rwanda. We had a small farmer, and the farmer had a problem. But Mohammed, he came to that farmer in Rwanda to solve the problem with irrigation, and it was also a problem with the filter. But what I want to show is that it's a huge multinational. It's the largest irrigation company in the world. It's owned by Singapore, and it's companies coming together from US, France, Israel and India, and they are now one company. But that company is supporting Patricia and her team for 100%. They can do all irrigation assignments, from small to big, and I think it's very special that a company like Rijkswaan, with all the knowledge, but also Rivulus. And then it continues, like we were talking about, for example, if you look at, and we discussed fertilization, and also that it will go more and more towards biologicals. All that knowledge is available with Koppert. And there are also other companies. You can also, if you like, you can find other partners. But it's interesting to know that #1 company in the world on that topic is Koppert. They work with you, like they are available. So Koppert is available for you. It's not just a small SME. No, it's really multinationals. So, and they are organized in a very practical way. So what I like to share with you is that they are all, if we look ahead, 2030, that it's good to know that we are not going to run away. We will be here. We are here now. We will be here in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. Holland Greentech will stay. And these companies are also, it's never changing. From the beginning, it's the same companies. So that we have a real strong team to support you. And so that is also, I will try to, that's my focus, to see also Holland Greentech, we have to develop in our own knowledge and to see where should we improve to be able to work with you, and how should we strengthen our cooperation of companies, because it's not one company, it's a whole group. So I think knowledge sharing is key, and my role and why I'm happy to be with you is I want to organize that for you.
Okay, thank you so much. So you are either overwhelmed or inspired, so I hope it's the latter. So as someone told me earlier, we don't really have an excuse. We've seen it done by a Zambian, supported by Zambians, and in our own local context. So I hope that you feel inspired. I hope that at least this shows you what is possible and the next future of farming. So I think this is now the future of what you'll start to see with farming. The climate is changing, the world is changing, so it's survival of the fittest. Those who are willing to adapt are the ones that stay relevant. So thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best. Please, if you have questions or you need a quotation or anything, please reach out to us. Thank you so much for your time.